You're in a car accident and the damage is real. But when you go to file the claim, you realize you don't have a police report. And now you're stuck wondering, can I still recover anything? Or did I just lose my case before it even started? I'm Ted Spaulding. I'm a Georgia personal injury attorney, and I've handled hundreds of car accident cases just like yours. In this video, I am going to explain exactly when a police report is not required and what evidence actually matters if you still want to file a strong claim, so you don't miss out on the compensation that you deserve just because a police report was not created, because the police were not called out to the scene. And stay with me, because there's one mistake people make after a no-report accident that turns a fixable claim into a denial. All right, let's get into it. Can you file an accident claim without a police report? If you're watching this, you've probably stressed and you need a straightforward answer. Well, the answer is yes. In Georgia, you can still file a car accident claim without a police report. A police report certainly helps a lot, but it's not the only way to prove what happened. Here's the issue, though. Without a report, the insurance company is usually going to make you work much harder on the claim. They ask more questions. They move slower. They look for reasons to doubt your story of how the wreck occurred. So the goal of this video is real simple. If you don't have a police report, you need to replace it with strong evidence. And you need to do it right away. So what is a police report actually doing and why insurance companies love it? You need to know this, because if you don't have the report, you need to know what gaps you're trying to fill. So a police report is basically a neutral record that says a couple of things: when the crash happened, where it happened, the parties involved, when it happened. Sometimes, and really almost every single time, it includes a diagram of how the officer has determined the wreck occurred. It oftentimes has witness information, and it has the officer's notes. So written notes of what the officer found to have happened, and most importantly, who the officer believes is at fault. So you can imagine insurance companies love this just like we do on our side, because it gives them something official to point to. But here's the part that people don't realize. Even when there is a police report, it can still be wrong. So no, a police report is not magic. It's just one tool. And if you don't have it, you can still build a strong claim. You just need to know what evidence matters most. So let's talk now about the two situations where no police report becomes a problem. So there are two big scenarios where missing a report makes your life really hard. And the first is when fault is disputed. If the other driver changes their story later, now it becomes your word versus theirs. And then second is when it's a hit and run or an uninsured motorist situation. Those claims can come with policy requirements about reporting promptly. Insurance companies may try to use delays against you. It can become a mess. So if you're in one of these two scenarios, this video is even more important. Now, let's talk about what you should do instead of a police report. And so this is going to be your replacement checklist, if you will. So what evidence matters most without a police report? Well, if you don't have a police report, you want to build proof in 5 categories. And the goal is to make your claim hard to argue with, just like if you had a police report. So number 1, photos and video. Really important. If you have photos from the scene, that is huge. You want both vehicles, wide and close-up photographs, license plates, make, model. You want the intersection and the road layout, any skid marks, where the debris went, showing it on the ground, traffic lights, stop signs, things like that. Weather and lighting if it becomes an issue. You want pictures of all of this because you're having to do what the officer would have done, which is show how this wreck occurred. So before vehicles are moved and all of that. If you don't take pictures at the scene, you got to take them as soon as possible afterward, okay? You want to also check for video sources. Are there businesses along the roadway that you could reach out to see if they have security footage that might have captured the wreck. So that's real important. Doorbell cameras. So if you're on a road that has homes facing the roadway, nowadays, oftentimes they've got Ring cameras that might catch the wreck. You want to check, knock on doors. These are really, really helpful things. Number 2 are witnesses. If anyone saw the crash, a witness can make the absolute difference between a liability fight and you getting paid what you deserve and a denial of your claim. Even one neutral witness who says, I saw that car run that red light and hit you, it can change everything. And it's more powerful than a police officer anyway. If you have an independent witness saying, I saw exactly what happened. Gotta get the name, contact information, everything, address, phone number, email of these folks. You want to get a recorded statement from them right there at the scene if you can. You've got a phone, pop the video, say, can I take a quick statement from you on video? Hey ma'am, what happened? And tell them, this is so-and-so, Ms. Smith. Here's her contact information. Ms. Smith, tell us what you saw. And then let them talk. It's beautiful. It's great. It helps you. Look for neighbors that were there, people at businesses that might have been out in the parking lot and saw what happened. All of these people could be very, very helpful for you, especially when the police are not called to the scene. So please look for these witnesses. So this one's a small but powerful one. Notes. Take notes, write things down right away of what happens when it's fresh, where you were, what you remember seeing right before the wreck, what you were doing, what you think your speed was, what you think the distances were, and how it all went down. Write it down in detail. People forget details later. If you have your notes, that's real important to help you. But notes made right after the wreck is what's so important because it tells your story and it's consistent later on. That's what you need. Consistency is what adjusters are looking for. They don't want your story changing and that sort of thing. The next is medical records. If you're injured, you obviously want to get checked out. You want to do that not just for your health, but also for your claim. Medical records connect injuries to the wreck. If you wait too long to get that initial treatment, it's harder to connect it later. Go right away, even if you think you're fine. Get evaluated. Then there's repair estimates and receipts. These can be helpful too. The written repair estimate is proof that the crash was real and the damage was real. The more property damage you have, the more likely someone's going to be injured in it. Tow bills, rental car receipts, all of these things. Keep all of it. It gives you evidence. But there's another piece that matters just as much. How you communicate with the insurance company when you don't have a police report is going to be very, very helpful. Because without a report, they'll lean harder on your claim. So you need to communicate really well with the adjuster. So in communicating with the insurance company, be ready. They're going to ask, well, why not a police report? Why don't you call the police out to the scene? Look, don't get defensive, but do not ramble and don't guess. Keep it simple. And you could say something like, at the time, we didn't realize how serious the damage or the injuries were. I'm providing the information and documentation I have. And then pivot back to your proof. Okay, so you tell them, we didn't think it was a big deal at the time, but here's my proof of what happened. My photos, my witnesses, my records, my medical care, my repair costs. Because the more you talk, the more chances you give them to twist something. So you want to be very simple, straightforward, don't ramble, give them the facts, and move on. And here's the open loop I mentioned at the beginning. The mistake that turns a no report claim into a denial. It's when people try to fill in gaps by guessing. So you say something like, well, I think they did this. You speculate about speed. You speculate about timing of things or distances, or I think I saw them, or any of that kind of stuff. You do not want to speculate. Speculate about what the driver was doing. No speculation. If you're going to give guesses or estimates, you need to tell them it's a guess or an estimate. Well, if I had to estimate, they were probably going 40 miles an hour. That way they know you don't know for sure. You don't want to state something as a fact that you don't know as a fact. So the number one rule I tell people with no report is you want to stick to what you know. Document what you know and move on. Now, let's hit the legal requirement question, which is, because people ask this all the time, I've got to go through this, which is, when is a police report required in Georgia? because you don't want to run afoul of this. So if you haven't had a wreck yet, or you have, and keep in mind for next time, there are Georgia requirements of when you're supposed to report a wreck. So in Georgia, you are generally required to report an accident when there's injury, death, or property damage over a certain amount. So the amount is lower than most people think for the property damage side. And it basically triggers almost every wreck is going to need to be reported to the police. So in real life, if you're not sure, call the police, call law enforcement. I tell people to do it every single time. Don't think it's not a big deal. It could become a big deal. But here is the other side of that coin, if you will. If you don't call the police, as I've said earlier, that does not automatically claim. It just means that you have to be more organized and proactive. Now, what happens if the other driver denies the crash or flips the story? Let's talk about that nightmare scenario. So if this happens, what typically does happen is someone acts real cooperative at the scene. Oh, I'm sorry, says all these things. We don't need to call the police. Here's my insurance information. We'll work this out. But then in a few days, you hear it never happened, or it was your fault, not mine. You backed into me. You T-boned me. All of these things. Without a report, it allows them to change their story because it becomes a he said, she said. You don't have any other proof. Police reports help you win that proof right then and there. Well, you don't have it. Photos, they're time-stamped. So I've had one case where disputing over what day the wreck occurred, for God's sake. And it became important because the insurance wasn't there on a certain date within a day of each other. So we were saying it happened on one date where there would be insurance. They're saying it happened on a different date where there wouldn't be insurance. Photographs taken by my client at the scene were time-stamped. So we could say it clearly happened on this day. Look at the photos. She took a photo of his license. When else would she have done that? It's the day of the wreck. These things are real important. Texts between you and the driver can become real important, where they might admit to certain things or giving information. Witnesses again, video, all of these things are real important. It's not impossible to fight against a driver who changes their story with no police report. It's certainly going to be harder. You have to have your ducks in a row. Now, we need to talk briefly about hit and run scenarios and uninsured drivers, because that's the one category when timing matters a lot when you don't have a police report. So if the other driver took off or they didn't give you any information, those can become real tricky without prompt reporting. So if you've been in a hit and run scenario, or the driver doesn't give you information and you can't find them, the best move is to always report it as soon as you can to your insurance company. You got to do this. If you don't assume you're done. But understand, the insurance company may try to use it against you. If you don't report it quickly, you can void your insurance coverage. And it's the only coverage you're going to have in a hit and run or no information about the driver situation, because you're never going to find them. So that's when gathering everything that we've talked about before is real important, and also getting advice early is real important. So can you still win without a police report? Yes, you can. I've helped plenty of Georgians get claims paid without a police report. It happens all the time. The difference is they did two things the right way when we're able to do it. They documented the crash like it mattered, and they stayed consistent with their story. Those two things then help us as their attorneys pursue the claim for them, just as if we had a police report. So here's your quick action plan if you're in this scenario today. 1, gather all photographs and video that you have. 2, look for any nearby cameras, homes, businesses, etc. 3, get witnesses information. Get them on video giving a statement right then and there. 4, write down everything you remember about the wreck while it's fresh, right there at the scene or the moment you get home. 5, get the medical care that you need. 6, get the repair estimates, towing, keep receipts, all of that. And 7, be careful with adjuster questions and what you say. No guessing. If the insurance company starts denying, delaying, or twisting your words, that's when you need to get help. So To sum it up, you can file a claim without a police report in Georgia, but you have to be thorough, organized, and proactive. Now, if you're wondering what to do next, you'll want to watch my next video. What steps should I take if I've been injured in a car accident? It's packed with actionable tips you can use right away to protect your rights and your finances even before you talk to a lawyer. You really don't want to miss this one. It could make all the difference in your case. And I'll see you over there.